It's been a while since we had a look at the solar companies, especially Jinko Solar and Canadian Solar, which are the two companies that I follow the most simply because of the valuation. In my opinion, these two companies are fairly valued, or to be honest, quite lowly valued. And it has been that case for a long time now. Also, these two companies offer really interesting growth pace in terms of the shipment of modules. In fact, you can have a look here and let's see here. So this is the list for the first half of 2023. Jinko Solar in the first position, and then Canadian Solar in the fifth. And you might ask, okay, why I'm not interested in these three companies here? And the simple fact is that they are not available on the US market, on the US stock market. So that's why I focus my energy on these two companies, Jinko and Canadian Solar. So this is the list, same list, but for the full year of 2022. And there you can see that there's these four companies, including Jinko Solar, in a basically same kind of level, just about 40 gigawatts in terms of module shipment of solar panels. And then we have like Canadian Solar, which is basically behind the first four leaders, but also ahead of the rest by quite some distance, to be honest. Even the sixth place is quite a bit behind Canadian Solar. And you could see that the top five is actually the same top five here. So yeah, although Canadian Solar has managed to basically increase their shipment, if you look at here, 14 gigawatts for the first two quarters of this year and 21 for the full year of last year. And I think they have like expected around 30 gigawatts for 2023. And then Jinko Solar, I think they're expecting like something like 75 gigawatts from 2023. So those numbers would represent quite a bit of increase, going from 40 to 75 in this Jinko, and also in Canadian Solar's going from 21 to 30 or thereabouts. So it's basically at a bare minimum, yeah, let's say 50% or more increase in module shipment. And this is, that's why I kind of really interested into these two companies. So one of the most important reasons when you invest in these kind of companies is actually to have a look and follow this price of polysilicon, which is the raw material that is used in most of the types of the solar panels. No matter if you have a N-type or P-type, or if you have a polysilicon based module or a monocrystalline based module, which offers slightly, or at least to some degree, better efficiency. It doesn't matter. You're always dependent on the raw material, which is the polysilicon. And you can see that by end of 2022 the price was almost at $40 per kilo, and it's been kind of fluctuating a bit, but in a clear downtrend, and we are basically plateauing right now ever since the summer of 2023, and we're sitting around 10 to 8 US dollar per kilo, currently at 8.52. So this one is really important to follow if you're interested in this market and these companies. And this is basically what decides the end consumer price. So highly important. It's basically the same kind of relationship in a sense to lithium in the lithium-ion batteries for your electric cars. And we know that a couple of weeks ago Jinko Solar had their Q3 earnings, which we're gonna have a look at now, and Canadian Solar will have their earnings I think next Tuesday, next week. But starting with Jinko Solar for a moment, and you can see that everything looks really great. I mean, the shipments are almost at 22.6 megawatts, and that's for the modules, to be honest. And you can see that the revenue is 4.36 billion US dollar, which represents 3.7% quarter increase, and also above 63% compared to the same period last year. Now, gross margin is also very healthy at 19.3%. You have to remember that it's not that far ago that both these companies had really low margin, gross margin. So seeing these numbers like 19.3 compared to 15.6 in the previous quarter and 15.7 in the same quarter last year. So the increase in gross margin is really good, and I think if they continue and have this kind of growth in the next coming years, the stock price should definitely go up, in my opinion. Also, one of the most important lines here is net income at 181 million US dollar, which represents 140% increase year on year. Again, although that the price of the solar panel modules has been going down since last year, we've seen, as I've shown you here, that the price of the polysilicon also has been going down. So you could argue that despite the sales price, let's say the average selling price, the ASP going down, most likely the manufacturers like Jinko Solar and Canadian Solar are positioning themselves in regards to the other kind of costs, like the polysilicon manufacturing cost and the wafer cost, and I think that totally adds up to a better kind of gross margin. They are guiding for 23 gigawatt of shipment for the next quarter, which I think gets us very close to the 70 gigawatts that I mentioned previously. They are also highlighting the point of the N-type technology, which kind of, there's a new trend there that most of basically every single manufacturer on this list that you've seen here are focusing on the N-type solar panels, which offers higher efficiency, and it's a kind of expensive taking in terms of the business and in terms of getting the manufacturing lines to produce this new type of cells and modules, but I think in the long run it's really good. They also mentioned that the demand for the N-type product continues to grow globally, and the N-type module shipment accounted for more than 60% of the module shipments globally in the third quarter. They also say that the N-type modules retained their competitive premium over the P-type modules, and the premium continued to exceed the market average. Again, really good for those companies that are leveraging the N-type modules. They're also mentioning that this kind of N-type modules having 25 to 30 watts better performance compared to the other types. Bear in mind the additional 23 gigawatts of module shipment they are expecting in the last quarter of 2023, and you can see here that they already shipped 52 gigawatts, which placed them at number one spot for total global manufacturing. They also mention the efficiency of the newest brand new TOPCon cells, which is just below 27%, and I have to be honest, these numbers are very good for a solar panel. Now, if you're new to this market, you know that solar panels, you cannot just take this number and expect this efficiency everywhere. It depends on the temperature and the humidity and everything in the place where you use your solar panel. But this is basically the optimum, the best case scenario, and 27% almost. It's really good. I think just 5-6 years ago, most companies would talk about 20-21%. So we are definitely going in the right direction, and it's good to see that Jinko Solar is really at the cutting edge. So not only do they show the big volume they are the global leaders in terms of volume shipment, but they are definitely also competitive in terms of the efficiency of their cells. Now, to be honest, Canadian Solar also are really good, and some of their stuff is also insanely high efficiency, and we will look into that next week when they release their earnings. Another important line here is that they are mentioning that the capacity for mono wafer is going to be at 85 gigawatts, the cell at 90 gigawatts, and the module at 110 gigawatts by end of 2023, which means that if everything goes along the plan, they will be able to produce roughly 100 to 110 gigawatts of modules by end of this year. And if you're new to this market, you might wonder, okay, but how can we trust a company to deliver on these numbers? And my simple answer is just look at the history, look at each year's production numbers that the official earning report shows, and look at the previous year's goals, let's say, or outlook for the next year, and you will see that every year they have this kind of outlook for the coming year, and then basically during that year they will actually achieve those numbers. The same thing with Canadian Solar. So I really put good confidence in these numbers here. I won't doubt them at all. And finally, it's very interesting. You can see that, especially comparing the shipment year over year. So you can see that if you roughly double the shipment, 108% increase, and you can see that the revenue increased only 63%. Generally, this wouldn't be that great, but the interesting part here is, again, despite, as I mentioned previously, despite the ASP, so average selling price for each module, going down, we know that the polysilicon price is also going down quite sharply, which means that this is what we will see. So the revenue goes down because the cost of each product is going down, but the margin on those products is higher, and you can see that there's actually 100% increase in gross profit. And if you go to the net income gap, you can see that there's actually 140% increase in that metric. And this is really interesting, because if this company continues at this pace, even let's say somewhere close to that or even half that, I mean, these are like really insane numbers. Imagine if you're sitting here next year and they show similar kind of numbers, let's say 80% increase in GAAP net income. I mean, that's another 150 million additional here, and that's like totally, this number would be 350 million in net income next year for one quarter. And if you take 4 times that, that's above 1.2, 1.3 billion US dollar in net income. And again, remember the numbers here. So Jinko Solar is currently sitting at market cap of 1.7 billion US dollar. That would give a PE ratio just above, let's say, 1.1, 1.2. So yeah, that's why I'm really confident in this company. And if you hang around for next week, you will see that most likely we will see a similar story in Canadian Solar's case. Maybe not as good, but still like really good comparison compared to the same period last year. And finally, to finish with, it's very interesting to know that Jinko Solar announced a dividend, which came out of nowhere, to be honest, for me at least. I was quite surprised. But they are actually announcing a dividend at $1.5 US dollar per share, which represents like something like 4.5% dividend yield. And this is really interesting for this kind of like low valuated company with insane, like, I mean, this kind of growth is like beyond insane in my opinion. And if this company would be fully American company or European company, I think this company would be valued like 5 to 10x more than that is today. But because of the relationship to Chinese market, I think a lot of Western investors are not so confident. But we also know that Canadian Solar and Jinko Solar and others are actually investing in manufacturing plants in United States and other Western companies. You can see actually here that Canadian Solar on the 30th of October announced a new solar cell manufacturing facility in Jeffersonville in Indiana, United States. And it's going to have a capacity of 5 gigawatts yearly. And also we know that Canadian Solar just like a few months ago, 3-4 months ago, announced a module assembly line in Texas. So you have your cells which you make into your modules. So there's definitely some movement going on. And you might say, well, 5 gigawatt, how much is it? Again, remember that in the past 2 quarters, Canadian Solar shipped 14 gigawatts, which means roughly a third of that would come from US in the future. And that's just, let's say, the first step. And Jinko has the same kind of solutions going on. I think they already have a plant in US. And this is a way to basically differentiate and remove the geopolitical risk. So I definitely think like you should follow these 2 companies. And again, this is not investing advice, but it was just a kind of update to the solar companies. So thank you for watching the video and see you in the next one.